So today we're at the tomb of Edgar Allan Poe, a famous Baltimore writer. And as you see in the background and the opening shot, we're right there, right at his tomb in the church where he's buried. I'm here today because I wanted to tell a ghost story from a few years back. Now, this ghost story is not in my novel, Memoirs of an Extraterrestrial. Of course, I am Herman Williams III, a.k.a. H.P. Stanley, author of Memoirs of an Extraterrestrial, the Negro Conundrum. Like I said, this story isn't in the book. It's one of the stories I had to cut out because the book was getting a little too long. But it is something that actually happened. And here we go. Late 80s, early 90s, I was moving into a new apartment. Wanted to find a one-bedroom for about $600-700 a month. And I wind up finding an apartment, a two-bedroom apartment, in a really sweet neighborhood in West Baltimore, about a mile from St. Agnes Hospital off of Wilkins Avenue. And I was surprised that the two-bedroom apartment was going for the same price as a one-bedroom apartment. And when I talked to the landlord at her office, it was, quick and easy. Where do you work? And at the time, I worked at Demimo's restaurant, a fine dining establishment here in Baltimore. It's just an excellent restaurant, one of the best Italian restaurants I've ever been to. So I'm working at Demimo's and moving into a new apartment. So when I got my stuff, the two bedrooms were kind of close to each other. So I chose one as the place where I would sleep. And because I'm an artist, a sculptor, I chose the other room for my art supplies and a TV room. So after a couple days of moving in and getting myself settled, I get back into my work routine. And I left for work one early morning to work a lunch shift. And when I came back, I noticed that the door to the bedroom that was now my artist space, I noticed the door was shut. And I distinctly remember leaving that door open before I left for work. But it didn't bother me too much. I'm just like, hey, next day I'll just leave the door open, what the hell. So I go to work the next day and I specifically opened the door and made a point of doing so just to confirm to myself that yes, you did leave the door open, and I go to work. Well, when I came back home that night, the door was shut again. So I thought, that's kind of strange. What's going on here? Maybe the door's off balance, or maybe there's a little breeze here in this room. So the next day when I left for work, I took a bag of laundry and I opened up the door and I placed the bag of laundry right there in front of the door to keep it open, all right, just in case it's off balance or a breeze. I go to work, come home that evening, and what do I find? I find that the bag of laundry is wedged between the door and the door frame, okay? As if someone had pulled it shut, not even bothering to remove the bag of laundry. The next day, I go to work, and again, I'm going to put something in front of the door, but this time, I lifted weights at the time. So I had, some metal, steel dumbbells and, barbells. So I grabbed a stack of weights, maybe about 75 pounds, and I put that in front of the open door and leave for work. Well, I come home that evening, and what do I find? I find the weights are jammed between the door and the door frame. So now I'm freaking out. I figure, who lived in this apartment last? This person still has a key. I'm going back to the landlord's office and find out what this deal is and get the locks changed. I go back to the landlord's office the very next morning. I say to her, Miss Francis, something strange is happening in my apartment. I think the guy or people that live there last still have a key, and they're coming into my apartment. She says, why? I said, because I'm leaving the door open when I leave for work. I'm even putting things in front of the door to keep it open, and when I come home, the door is shut. So what's up with that? Can I get the locks changed? And she says, well, okay. And she was a little bit nervous. She didn't want to, like she was trying to hide something. And she says, well, okay, we'll change the locks. No problem. She changed the locks later on that afternoon. I'm thinking, great, everything's cool. I leave for work the next day, specifically opening the door again, putting the same weights in front of the door to keep it open. When I get home, the door is shut with the weights jammed between the door and the door frame. Okay, back to the rental office I go. What's going on with my apartment? You changed the locks, I have a new key, and someone is still shutting my door. So, she takes a deep breath. She takes a deep breath and another deep breath, and she says, well, I have something I need to tell you. I'm like, really? What's that? She says, well, the last people who lived in the apartment, it was an older couple, a man and a woman, Miss Mary and her husband, James. Well, Miss Mary died in the apartment. Really? And I believe the room you're speaking about, that room used to be her sewing room. Okay, I said. And what is it that you're trying to tell me? Well, did you notice that the apartment, that the rental on the apartment was kind of cheap for a 2-bedroom apartment? I said, well, that's the reason why I moved in, because I'm getting 2 rooms for the price of 1. Well, you're not the only person to have lived in that apartment since Miss Mary died. As a matter of fact, she tells me, there were 3 other tenants who lived in the apartment, and they all left. I'm like, you're telling me this now, after I moved in, and you didn't bother to say, well, the apartment is perhaps haunted. Maybe you should take that into consideration. And she said, well, no, because we just dropped the price of the rent down and figure that should take care of. Now I'm thinking, I'm in an apartment. There's a ghost in the apartment, I guess. I hadn't seen it yet. So next morning, I'm sitting down at my breakfast table having some cornflakes with bananas and a cup of coffee right by. And I'm eating my cornflakes. I reach over to grab the cup of coffee, and just as I put the cup of coffee to my lips, I looked, and from the corner of my eye, I see a streak go by. I almost dropped the cup of coffee. A streak goes by. I'm like, what the hell was that? And I get up and I look towards the the bedroom where my artwork was, and I didn't see anything. I sit back down, eating my breakfast, a little wary now. What the hell's going on? I look up, corner of my eye, I see a streak, and then it stops. And what I see is an apron, a red apron. No, a white apron with some flowers on it. Very colorful. I see a white apron with some flowers on it, and a blue dress, and I see white pearls, and I see a face, an image of a face with gray hair. It was just sort of like coming in and out of focus. It wasn't really there, but it was there, and I could see it. And it was like right from the corner of my eye. I'm afraid to turn and look at it right on, because I figure, what the hell is that? So here it is, and I'm trying to look in it, and the figure was there, and then it just sort of faded away. And I'm thinking, what the hell? So I go back to the rental office the next day. I said, this woman, that lived in the apartment, what did she look like? Can you describe her for me? And of course the landlord says, well, Miss Mary, she was the sweetest woman. She had gray hair, and she always wore these really nice pearls around her neck. I'm freaking out right now at this point. She always wore these nice pearls, and she would wear a white apron with these flowers. I'm like, stop. Miss Mary's in my apartment, okay? Miss Mary's. And even the landlord she was taken aback. She sat back. She says, oh, you're kidding me. I'm like, why would I kid about something like that?